Welcome. I know a lot of you have been part of our weekly discussions that we've had ongoing. This is the beginning, hopefully, of a weekly training slash review new products or new features. And Craig is going to lead us today in hands-free operation onset with Unity. Craig.
Hey, everybody. I truly appreciate everybody taking some time to do this with us. It's a little bit of a shameless plug, but I think there's some things to learn here, and really want to emphasize the fact that we welcome your feedback. This product has been through, I don't even know how many firmware updates already before its release. So your feedback gets right into the box firmware and changes are made pretty quickly. So I just want to make a note of that. We'll take notes. I have Zaida here taking notes. There's things that come up. I also have from Engineering Rich here. There's going to be some questions I probably can't answer. So I have a true expert engineers nearby. So let me walk you through what the objective here is for us. I want to demonstrate how, even though nothing is truly hands-free, Unity, because it combines a lot of products into one, allows us to do more things without touching. If you look over here to the side, you'll see I have a pile of products. I have an opto splitter, I have one of our dimmers, I have a node, I have some wireless devices, and I have a switch. Typically, and I'm sure you're all familiar with this, when I have a camera turnaround or a lighting setup change, I have to move all those items individually. So that's 6 or 7 things I have to touch, I have to clean, I have to move. And that was really the inspiration for Unity. I won't go into this, but I saw Brian Booth, a programmer we all love, working on a show with all these things stacked up and thought, well, let's put that all together in one box. And so this is the box we call Unity. I'm going to give you a brief tour of the landscape, and then I'll pause for some questions about it. Over here we have our unmanaged Ethernet switch. There's 8 ports with activity lights. Right below that we have our opto splitter. That's 4 ports attached to port E. So those are always all the same port. Right here I have my node. I have an 8-port node. A node just means I can change any of these ports to be any universe I want. By the way, I also have a color designated for each universe, which is selectable by the user. I also have 2 universes of wireless, X and Y. I have a 4-way switch, which I'm moving right here, that allows me to change the box outlet settings globally. Briefly, what I mean by that is, let's say I want all 12 outlets on this box to be hot. I simply move the dial, select to hot. If I want it to be switchable, I just move the dial, select to that. Now, if I want to change individual outlets, I do that through the user interface, which is this. This is what we call the GUI, graphical user interface. I also want to point out that this box is a 1.2 or 2.4K. The duplex is 4 kilowatts. So you have the opportunity to plug in a 2K or a 1K. This is a new feature we've never done on any of these boxes before. So before I keep going, I want to ask if there's any questions just about what's in the box, because there's a lot of stuff going on here. All right, no questions. So, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
With the switchable GMX ports, are you able to, you said you can have 8 different on the node, but are you able to program that to be a 2-universe situation? So you had 4 ports of 2, that kind of thing? You can,
yes, you can customize it to be anything you want. By the way, it's a good, that's a good time for me to recognize that there are 7 unique universes available, even though there's 8 ports. There are not 8 unique universes, there's 7. So one of them will have to be a copy over. But yeah, I could make all 8 of these one universe, 4 of them one universe, or anything I want. I can do that simply by touching it, and then I'll give you an example. If I were to press D, D would appear in the screen and I can change it to any color or universe I want. We're gonna let Nick do that remotely because one of the things I want to point out is that everything in this box can be changed remotely through an iPad, a phone. So that there's two things going on here. Nick is playing the role of the programmer plus the set electric. As a set electric, he's changing the modality of the box. He's deciding channel 1 needs to be hot power or switchable power, whatever the situation. He's also playing the role of the programmer because we didn't have another person to change the output of the box, dimming it up or down or whatever we want to do. So
you guys can see right here, I actually have control of the box. I'm about 200 feet away from Craig in another room, and I'm connected to the box with my iPad here. And I have these tabs up above that are in yellow, and I can go from device settings, universe colors, and 12 channel setup. The device settings here, you can set either a static or a DHCP. You can select Artnet, you can select sACN in multicast or unicast. And I'm sorry to interrupt, Craig. I just wanted them to see like.
oh, that's good.
Craig, is it possible to move your camera closer to the Unity box?
Yeah, well, I'll have somebody slide that in. 1 second.
Thank you.
And when Nick lets go of his screen control, it does go back to a closer view, I think. Is that better, guys?
We'll bring it in. Give us a second. It's taped down a little bit, but let's bring it in a little closer. Come on in, come on in, come on in. How's that? Awesome. All right,
That's good, Craig.
perfect.
Thank you.
I'm gonna scrunch in the corner here. So I know it's a little hard to see. So the interface here, I can control everything through this knob, or Nick can control it remotely. And he can do that on a tablet, he can do that on a phone. So again, what's cool about that is because we want to on set have as few people near the camera and the actors as possible. I could be a set electric, best boy, whatever. I could be 200 feet away and doing all this control remotely without touching the box.
So somebody just jumped in, asked about PoE, and no, we do not have power over Ethernet.
Not on this box. We will be doing a version of this box that we call Unity Data that does not have the outlets. It's all the brains, if you will. And that box will have 2 ports of PoE. And I'm going to pause here because I know there's a lot of people on the call. If anybody has a question, jump right in. All right, go ahead, somebody, sorry.
So I was just going to ask, what app are you guys using to control it? Is it available for iPad?
So the app that we're using right now is Blackout. We have, you can use Luminaire or you can use Blackout. I'll show you just quickly. I prefer the Blackout app because it looks and feels a little bit more like a console. Looks like that. So you can see the channels, all the channels instead of having to swipe left or right to get to them.
But let me expound a little bit further. So that's the app for the lighting control. For the part that Nick's doing to control the modality of the box, we're doing that through a web page. So the way we'll set that up is you'll put in the IP address of the box, and then they're connected. Very simple. Perfect. And any other questions before we carry on?
Yeah.
Yo,
If
Sorry,
you're
go ahead,
logging into the IP address of the box, that means I can't do 5 boxes simultaneously. Like I can't take all of the boxes that I have and click them all into sACN as opposed to Artnet. It means I have to already have assigned an IP address, identified which box that is, then change that setting and do that same routine to every individual box.
So one way to communicate the 5 boxes as one is when you have sACN multicast, and
Yeah.
if you have them in the same universe, they'll broadcast to all five units. Otherwise, if you want to talk to individual boxes, you would put them in Artnet or sACN unicast, and you would directly communicate.
Rich, that's how to
Nelly, I think-
control that's how to control all the lights. But I think her question is regarding the GUI being able to reconfigure. Does that work the same way?
No, yeah. Each box would get its own IP address for the GUI.
Right. What I'm saying, so I work on science fiction shows a lot with, sometimes we'll have 20 nodes, and a giant big deal is to have to identify each one and change its settings individually all the time. So often what that means is they end up on my desk first. I bench prep them all and out they go. But
It would be IP conflict with each box if there was if you tried using the same IP.
Yeah, so your point, Nelly, is that you are correct. To reconfigure, you have to connect to each one. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't have 3 people on 3 computers pulling them up and reconfiguring, or maybe, Rich, would it work if she had multiple browser windows and could switch between them? You just can't mass control them. Is that correct?
Each box would most likely get its own tab within your browser. So, each box would be like 2.2, 2.3, and each one would be a tab within your browser, which you can easily navigate through and easily change the settings, all from one browser.
But you
Okay.
still can't mass reconfigure.
okay, good note. Thank you.
Yeah, one of the things, Nelly, to your point, that we're working on is something we're going to call, I don't know, Artnet Constellation. We'll come up with a name
Sure.
for it.
Yep.
That
Everybody's got
allows to further control. So, and we're taking note of these questions, but feel free also to email us with some of the specifics that you may think of later, because we're constantly building this program out, and there's a lot of things we can do going down the road, and those kind of suggestions end up in the box.
Okay, good note. Thank you.
Yeah, but you're welcome. And by the way, when those firmware updates happen, you'll grab your laptop, plug into the firmware update. It takes about 2 minutes.
Yep.
You'll unpatch and you'll be good to go.
Yep, I get it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
There's also a firmware update for the dimmer as well, because this box has 5 computers inside. So there's more than one thing to update. There's also phone charging, yada, yada. Like to talk to you guys for 1 minute about the node here. And I'm going to have Nick actually control the node on his screen. And I want input about the workflow, because what we've done is we've assigned a color. These are RGB LEDs, and we've assigned a color for each one, which you can customize. Because what we noticed on set is people would, for example, put a piece of red tape on a DMX cable or a light that wanted to be universe red 1 or blue for 2. We've done that here with colors, and we've also done that with the Centena, because it has a window. You can set the same color on the Centena so you can keep track. Now I have a back button on my screen here, and it's not close enough that you can see it, but Nick will demonstrate. So you never lose track. You can always go back and see what colors are on what ports.
So I'm going to change universe in the universe config section. I'm going to change DMX port A to universe 1 and hit save. And now you see in the graphical user interface that the color has changed to red, and on the box is also changed to red, denoting that they are now the same.
Nelly.
Yeah, sorry. I've got lots of nerd questions. I'm sorry if it's getting to be too much. Send me. But can I copy that and push that to all of the others? So in my case, I've got 20 of them on my desk. I've set up my super kick-ass color coding. I love it so much. Copy, paste, send. Or do I need to color match each time?
Nelly, that's kind of back to what we're going to call Artnet or Constellation. You can do that. now physically on the box, I can do that. I can hold down, for example, B, and then hit C, and it copies over.
Here, let's
So
try
I
it
don't know if you
again.
can see that or not.
Try it again, Craig, so she can see.
So I can press B, hold it down and press C, and then it copied the universe over. So I can do that here. I can do that at the screen, but only one at a time until we develop that program we've been talking about.
Oh, okay.
And the colors are customizable. So if your workflow is whatever color, you can do that.
Okay. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. And as a repeat, there are 7 unique universes, but 8 ports. That just became a bandwidth problem with the amount of work we could do with our chipset, because the user interface requires its own universe of power.
Is there a way to set up
In
a default
multicast
setting?
Say that again?
Is there a way to set up a default setting that would bridge what Nellie's trying to achieve, that as an operator, I can have a profile that's my default setting for them, and then once I plug this in, I can just command it to go to the default that I've established? Is there a way to do that?
So within the web GUI, I don't know if Nick has that pulled up, but there's a tab in the web GUI on the device settings tab that is it's labeled save/load, and that basically saves your settings to your hard drive, which you can then upload into your next box.
Okay, great.
It's right here. You see that? Right there. Save parameters.
And that saves everything. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, that saves everything.
But I obviously wouldn't want to push my IP address onto my next box.
Yeah. So yeah, you don't want to create conflicts in that aspect, but you still upload the settings and then just change the IP. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Good question, Shane.
Hey, Melanie, to your point, do we want to make sure that when you save your settings, it doesn't change, it doesn't save the IP address, that it leaves that off of what we're saving?
So yeah, this is assuming that you want every single detail copied, but we can make it that you don't copy the IP address.
If I may, what the other guys do is there's a hard button on the device. So if the boxes are deployed before I get a chance to address them, they can look for a dynamic IP address. Then I can splash everybody IP addresses, whatever suits my fancy. I usually give it a small range of just 10 addresses, and then I can find them one at a time. So your copy thing, I would exclude the IP address. Just keep the settings different than the control functions.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
so you wouldn't want to create like 10 saved settings and then just upload a particular one.
I think she would, but without the IP address.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm saying you could make copies of a setting with different IPs, and then it literally copies everything over to the next box but you choose the specific file with the IP that you want. Yeah. So.
Oh, so if I have one that's in service, I don't like it, it needs to go back to the shop, I can bring in a new one from the rental house, and that was box .7. I can push .7 settings back to that. That sounds great. Yes.
Just even for just keeping it as a backup. So
Yeah.
like you just for all the settings to be there, so you wouldn't just get surprised with something. It does make sense to have it all in the file.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I got it. Okay. We got that.
That doesn't solve some lamp op helping and changing one of your dimmed outputs to a non-dim line for reasons. If I upload in the scenario of I've got to replace my unit, I'm going to put it back to dim, unbeknownst to me that they've been playing that output as a hard line for the last 6 weeks.
Well, just one thing I'll point out, Nellie, is you can lock out these settings from people on set.
Yes. I love locking those lamp ops out. Yes.
So maybe as a follow-up to this in an email, we'll let you know what things you would and would not be locking out, because we can adjust those. But early on, we knew that we needed a lockout feature.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing I wanted to point out, since you mentioned it's nice to have your your device ahead of time before it goes to the set,
Mhm.
we have a battery. And I don't know if you can see this little green button where my finger is. And that battery life is about 2 hours. So somebody could bring you this box. You have about 2 hours to configure the box how you want, and then lock them out and then hand them the box. Obviously, once the box is plugged in, the battery gets recharged.
And of course, the battery is just power to control, configurations. There's no output.
Yeah, of course.
Right, yeah. But you will get the lights, and you can set up your GUI and all the other things. We have just because we didn't mention it before, we do have 2 universes of wireless DMX you can receive or transmit. If you're using our Centenna with this, you can match color. Again, trying to help with workflow issues on set if you're using colors to identify universes.
I got just a quick question, sorry. So are we able to push configs via USB? So can you save a config to USB and push it to another device?
If you're referring to the fan, I'll take it.
Currently, we only supply the settings over Ethernet, so it would be an Ethernet connection from your computer to the next Unity.
So if it's not connected to the network at all, you either have to go through the GUI, you can't plug in a USB and pick a config file off of that.
No, we don't have that right now. Currently, it's just saves locally to your hard drive, and when you move on to the next Unity, you connect your Ethernet cable to your computer, and you load up the settings. So it's all over Ethernet right now on your computer.
Yeah, something we're taking note of to work on though, because obviously that could be really handy in certain situations.
Once again, David, I think you're referring to the difference between how you configure the Unity box, of course, versus how you're controlling what's plugged into it, which you can save to your control device, right?
Yeah, exactly. Getting the configuration pushed onto your Unity. Say if I wanted to make 6 of them in that generic setup, I'd be able to without having the network, be able to make a configuration on one of the devices, save it to the USB, take that USB to the next device, and then load that onto as many devices as necessary without necessarily being connected to the network or having an IP assigned or any of those things that may prohibit us from accessing it via the web interface.
So just to be clear, you don't need to be connected to any network to do that, to upload and save settings. You just need an Ethernet cable and your computer or your iPad. That's all you need. You don't need to be connected to any network. It's just that the data.
Yeah, but you have to have a network established. You have to have things on the
just
same
those
IP.
3 components,
Right, like, yeah, you have to connect them with the network. You can't do it without a network cable, RJ.
Yeah. Basically, your computer IP on your NIC and the IP on the Unity just need to match and just an Ethernet cable.
Okay, you've answered my question. Thank you.
But yeah, David, I think that would be a great thing to add to the top of our wish list, which is hand somebody a thumb drive and say, go around and configure all of these, right?
The other thing oh, go ahead, no, sorry.
I was just going to say, especially given that sometimes half of those boxes are up in the air or only accessible by a lift or something like.
Right.
The other thing that I wanted to point out with the USB concept is a lot of times at the end of the show, I'll turn in, creative materials. So all my show files, all my stuff from my rigs, they go on USB drives and they're given as part of my wrap package to production, imagining that they're going back for reshoots and they're going to reestablish things that we've done. So we're adding an intelligent component that's separate from our lighting console that would need information to interface in the same way. So having that information to be able to pass to production, assuming that it's not necessarily you doing the reshoots, might not be a bad thing either.
Got it. Yeah, these are great points, guys. Much appreciated.
Craig, you want to jump down and show some different socket configurations?
Well, yeah, I wanted to pause for 1 second and mention just randomly that this box also has an internal ghost load for each channel. I'm sure everybody here has had a situation in which you had a LED tube or something misbehaving and you had to go get a cube tap and a 25-watt light bulb. We've done that electronically without generating too much heat inside so that you can turn that on or off per channel. There's almost no situation by which having it on becomes a problem, so you usually just want them on, but you can turn them on or off by channel. And that's accessed at the GUI here, or it's accessed remotely on your device. One more thing I will mention is the setup we're doing here is going to become a permanent setup where we have a Unity box with a camera on it. We have various lights plugged in, and at any time you know you're going to order these in a week or something, and you want somebody in your crew to become familiar with it, pick a time slot, they could log in, and then with or without our help, however you want to do it, they could work on the box and get familiar with the equipment before it shows up. Any questions before we let Nick start to show how he's remotely doing it? Go ahead, Nellie.
You did, just before you discussed ghost loads, which an onboard ghost load is fantastic. Thumbs up on that, that's huge. But you did discuss color coding the LEDs on the front of the box. The box that I saw last March, the LEDs were relatively far recessed into the box. And so if I had a blue LED next to a red LED, they both appeared to be purple. Has there been have you worked on that problem?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. We have fixed that problem with shielding and with light pipes. The colors are much more distinct and bright right now than they were before.
Okay, and again, the reason big shows have me, I usually am their systems tech, so the shows that require systems tech generally are bigger, but I use a lot more than 8 universes, and I might want all 8 universes or however many in one spot. At what I saw last March, the red and orange were very similar, and a couple of the other colors, in addition to the bleeding, the colors were very similar. Can I add a flash, so like a 1 pulse of the red orange is universe 1 and 2 pulses is universe 2, or are we limited by what colors RGB can mix?
We are currently limited by the colors that RGB can mix, but that's not to say that we can't create something of that nature. Nick, why don't you go ahead, and A and B right now are both red. Why don't you make B orange? And I know we're not very close in this, but maybe, I don't know if you can see that, Nelly. I'm going to have him change to orange. And I'll move the camera in for this once he does that to see if you can see the distinction of the colors.
So you want A and B to be, say it again, George?
No, I want B to be orange and leave A as red, please.
I pick that.
And while Nick's doing that, I just want to acknowledge, of course, it is 1:30. We're not in a hurry and very happy to keep working with everyone. So you're welcome to hang around. But we do want to acknowledge that, it's half an hour. So if anybody has anything urgent to input or ask before you have to leave, just let Craig know.
There you go.
Gotta go. Thanks, guys.
Now, I don't know if you can see that, Nelly.
Can you tilt the camera up? Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and from where I'm sitting, they're quite distinct.
Okay, good.
You'll have to take my word for it.
No, I believe you. That's excellent. Great.
Yeah, but
obviously, so.
And
yeah.
I can't see what it's doing right now, so hopefully it's.
If I may, you're going to want to tilt down again.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. How's that?
One more of those.
All right.
Good stuff.
All right. Very good. Another small thing is these bump buttons. So as in all of our lunchbox style dimmers, if you just need something hot right away to override every other possible thing, I can press this button, which is recessed and protected by this plexi, and make it hot instantly. And you're gonna have a hard time seeing that because of where the light bulb is, but I'll press that one. You see that went red? That is now hot. Now the reason it's bicolor, the reason it's red is in case you forgot that you bumped it, you'll see that it's red and I can just unbump it. Another thing you don't want to use too often, but we have, is called the panic select. And when I hit the panic button, everything comes on at full and it times out in 20 minutes. And I'll tell you why we did that, because we all love our set dressing friends, but they discover that these boxes can be used to provide light on the set when electrics aren't around. And they like to hit the panic button, then go home for the weekend. So we have this set up so that when they decide to go home for the weekend, 20 minutes later, the panic will time out and the lights will go off, because it's not made to be a permanent setting. Does that make sense to everybody? Great. I feel like I should mention it one more time because it's very unique to this box. Outlets can be 1.2 or 2.4, but a duplex is limited to 2.4 to a 20 amp breaker. So you no longer have to go get a 2K dimmer. You just need one box. Again, we're back to the less things to touch. That's sort of the magic we're trying to explain here, is I don't have to go get another device for a 2K or a 1K. And if I didn't discuss it before, Nick's going to demonstrate how we're controlling this quasar tube. Nick, you're on.
Quick question about the bump buttons there. Are they disabled? Are you able to disable them through the web interface?
No, sir.
And are you able to disable them from the box itself?
No.
Okay, so no matter what, we cannot turn off the bump buttons that make outlets hot when we don't need them.
No, it's like physically you can, if they're turned on, you can only turn them on and off, and same with the web GUI, but you cannot disable them. But you do have the option to turn them on and off. But yeah, they'll always be there.
We'll make a note of that. That might be possible in the future, Don. I'm not sure, but definitely make a note of that. It's a carryover from other products that has a purpose here, but wanting to give the programmers more control, I could see where we may want to add that as a feature in our firmware.
Because that can become like one of those stupid troubleshooting things where it's like, it's just on, it's not working. It's like, oh, because somebody decided to just go press the buttons. It was the reset button, right? It's like, no. So it often happens like someone's pressed the bump button again. So being able to disable them would be a huge attribute.
Got it.
The one thing is we can have that we can include that into the user interface lockout when we lock out.
Okay. In your lockout mode, we could include that.
That would be helpful. Absolutely.
Okay, we're definitely making a note of that. Nick, you're on the screen there. Would you go ahead and change channel 11 here, which is incandescent? Oh, actually, you're on the quasar tube. All right, so Nick has control of the quasar tube, and on that particular channel, which is, what is that, channel 1, Nick?
Channel 1 at 100%, and then I'm controlling it, and there it is at 50%.
So again, remotely, he can change the modality of that outlet from hot or incandescent dim or switchable to LED dim. You can do it through the GUI, but you can also do it remotely. So any outlet can be any of those 4 modalities at any time.
So here's an example. I'll take the incandescent bulb that's down in the right-hand corner at full, and there it goes.
Can you show us the GUI? Right now we're looking at your blackout app. There you go. So if you could highlight the channel, there you go.
And then if I want to go channel 11 where the incandescent bulb is, I can put a ghost load on by checking the mark next to it. And here are my 4 choices: incandescent, LED dim, switchable power, and hot power.
Oh, and by the way, default is whatever the global setting is, right? So that way if you're, right now my global setting is hot power. So by the way, when you select an individual mode for an outlet, let's say channel 8, I decide to be incandescent dim, and I've set that. I can change the global setting, and that will not change because I wanted that to be set differently so that you can use them both at the same time. Does that make sense to everybody? Whatever you set this at overrides the global. Otherwise, you could get into trouble, and we don't want you to have to lose control of that.
Hey, Rich, we've had a couple of questions here. I was wondering if we could take care of those, Craig.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Nate had asked with the bump buttons, if they are bumped, can you then remotely switch the setting back?
Yes. Yes.
So that's a good one for Nate. And then Sasha had asked and said, oh no, I'm sorry, that was Sasha's questions. Nate was asking specifically, oh, I'm sorry, it was Shane. My apologies. Shane had asked about daisy chaining on the on the node, and is the signal strength such that he would be able to do that and utilize the node at various points throughout his network?
Yes. Yes. So each of these have their own 5-volt power supply, and they are capable of the maximum rating, which is I think 32 devices of daisy chain.
Shane, does that answer your question, or speak up? We'll be happy to keep it going.
Yeah, I've had issues with previous dimmers that if I want to, I have to make sure that I've gone into an opto splitter and then into the rat pack. If I somewhere in my network with daisy chaining within a universe, I can't come out of a rat pack and then add an opto after it. There's not a signal strength that gives me a lot of problems. So I didn't know with that being a node, if that's been addressed so that I could use this as a position point that I can use that as an 8-port node and spider out from there and then add opto splitters to that.
So it sounds like, Rich, you're saying this is powered very differently from our typical 8-plex opti splitter.
Yeah, there's different circuitry, but we can get you a maximum count on that practical count.
Yeah, we will get you a maximum count on what that looks like.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're quite welcome.
Nate, did we answer your questions, Nate?
Yeah, I think so.
I also want to mention, and I'm jumping anytime for questions, that the box has fans, which are thermostatically controlled. 90% of the time or more, the fans don't need to be on. There is a little stir fan inside, which you'll never hear. Even with all the fans on, and there's more than one, you will not hear it. But again, the fans only come on when they need to, when there's a certain amount of heat. They have a thermostatic control on them. So if you're used to using our lunch boxes, this has a very similar decibel rating. We had to make sure that, obviously there's a lot more going on, so there's more to cool, but we've done that via the large heat sink. I also mentioned that there's a QR code on the box. So with your phone, you can scan that, and any operator in your show can scan that. And it can go right into a help and technical page where questions will be asked, things will be answered. We're going to build that out as we get input and learn what people's wishes are. We'll keep building that into the QR code into different categories or tabs. So if you're looking for something quick, you'll be able to find that. What we want to do is avoid having you go through our whole web page and advertising. We want you to go right to where you can find help. Walt, did you have a question?
Hey, Craig, I do have one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I do have a question, Craig. How are you, number one?
Oh, good.
Are there,
How are you? Thank you.
are there different fan speed settings? Like, can we program the fan to work at different speeds?
No, but you won't need to. The fans operate at a really low RPM. So
Copy.
yeah, no, but you do not have control of the fan. Jared.
Yeah, just jumping back to the two wireless universes. Now, do those have the same standard outputs as like the AKS or the regular transmitter? And like, can you select channel or select the output power of those?
The output power, because these are TMO2, so the output power is limited to 100 milliwatts. For everybody on the call, it's a great question. TMO1s were up to 250 milliwatts transmitting power. TMO2 is 100 milliwatts. Now, they've done some other things with the radio to improve its ability to transmit, but you do have less wattage. The result is, I believe TMO2 is a better listener than TMO1, but if I want maximum transmit power, I would probably want to use an AKS or a Lumen Radio product that has the higher power setting of the TMO1. But you had another, can you repeat the other part of your question, Jared? Because I think you only got halfway.
Well, I think it was like, with the settings with the AKS and everything, like you could pick which Wi-Fi channel you were on, assuming that we're still like single band and not dual band.
We don't have that setting here. These are, imagine we've stuck two antennas into the box and not the AKS. That's pretty much what they act as.
Copy that.
Yeah, and by the way, just for full disclosure, I'm operating this wirelessly. I have a router on top of the box. There is no internal router at this point. We may do that later, but it interferes with Lumen Radio. So that is the one add-on we did for this little show and tell.
And Craig, did you mention that your idea is for us to be able to set one of these up specifically for remote operation, where people can connect into a VPN connection and control it in order to just have their own experiment?
Yeah, so I did mention that. That will be set up, and what we'll do is we'll set up a simple way for them to schedule time, and they can either do that time on their own, or they can schedule that time with an engineer, and they can ask questions at every level that we're able to answer into the networking. Which, with us being in this COVID time, thankfully, because we have networking available in the box, we don't have to bring it to you to get used to the interface. And it's a lot lighter that way, because this thing weighs like 32 pounds. So your iPad, I'm sure, weighs a little less than that. Any other questions or comments?
For input of the universes, is it RJ45 or is there a DMX option for the input of the 8 or 7?
You have DMX input. Sorry, you have a DMX input right here, your throughput. And then you also have EtherCon input. Obviously, with DMX input, you're going to get a single universe over DMX cable. If you're using Ethernet, obviously, you can use Artnet streaming HDN for unlimited.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions I can answer about this?
Craig, I have one that's
Hi,
like
Craig.
not so much about technology, but about like I guess condition resistant. Like, how weatherproof were you guys able to make the box? Just out of my curiosity, because especially in Louisiana, we have humidity and we do a lot more like location kind of stuff.
The ports are coded with that. So, like any other of our boxes, because they generate heat, there's really not much we can do as far as weatherproofing goes. That's the bad news. The good news is because they generate heat, moisture tends to not stick to the circuit boards, if you will. There is a little lip on the top here to keep moisture from running into the box. You will need, imagine you're setting a box with 5 computers with it on the set. To tell you the truth, I've been surprised at how weather tolerant, for example, our lunch boxes are. We did a movie in Chicago, Jupiter Rising, where lunch boxes were rigged under the L train for a period of time, collecting dirt and moisture, and we got them back and vacuumed them out, and they kept working. So there's no specific thing done for weatherproofing.
One point, Craig, and I thought I'd bring up when we evaluated the demo Unity I got, was the seals and edges around where the antennas fold in may collect moisture into those cracks and crevices. And I just wonder if it might be an idea to seal those, just because if you're transporting it in weather, I know they're not rated to run in wet conditions, but if you're transporting them in wet conditions, I wouldn't want any water to creep in from there and become an issue. So that would be one thing I point to.
That's a good note, and we'll take care of that today. Because in the build of the box, there is a little crease there. So we'll see that up. The antennas, as you guys will see, if you can see me lifting it up and down, are now recessed. So if I stack the boxes, we don't have a problem. You can't see it in your video, but there are rigging points on the box for clamps. The box is a little heavier than our other boxes. We are in the process also of designing a simple clamp to use as female thread so that you can easily hang the box up.
Hey, we had a question for Rich. As far as DMX input, we have, is it just one access that is a DMX input and the others are strictly outputs?
Yes, so there's one DMX input only and just a pass through right next to it. And then, yeah, they're all outs.
And same thing, there's an Ethernet that is able to input to all of the DMX ports as well. One single Ethernet port that through which you could run the DMX output.
So that is actually any port on the switch is an equivalent to the next port to it. So you could plug into any port theoretically, and you would still get the same results.
Right, there's no in or out. It's just a switch. Yeah.
Well, but I thought, am I wrong then in understanding when it comes to controlling the DMX, that there's just a one dedicated Ethernet port that that controls those, or is that wrong?
It's just an extra Ethernet port.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we wanted symmetry over because we think it looks pretty, so the odd one came over here.
So to get eight universes running through that box, it has to be fed with Ethernet.
Yeah, that's true. You're only going to get one universe over DMX, so you will have to plug in Ethernet. By the way, I mentioned that these are 7 unique universes. That's in streaming ACN multicast. In Artnet, you have 8 unique universes on the node.
So Craig, we are 53 minutes into this. Do you have closing thoughts or want to take any final questions?
I'd love to take final questions. And then, Blaise, if everybody has their email and has follow-up questions, love to get those later. But any last-minute questions? Go for it, guys and girls.
I've got one regarding DMX, the DMX in. What potential do you have for routing that? Can you jump it back onto the network? Do you have the option to merge it with a current universe? What options do we have with the DMX in, or does it just work locally?
Yeah, with the DMX in, it could be sent to the dimmer. It can be outputted to any and each and every one of those DMX ports, A through H. They can now output it, or one specifically can output it, or just your dimmer can output it. But all of those are configurable to repeat out the DMX in.
But they would both go back onto the network. Like I can't turn DMX into sACN from this box.
Thank you, Nelly.
Oh, no, we do not have that.
Okay. Because that would be very useful for remote control type purposes, because then we can ship it back to the console. You can make a thing do a thing.
Yeah.
But if you can only ship it within its local thing, then that answers my question. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll definitely take a note of that, and follow up on that. Any other questions?
Yes. How manageable is the switch? So like if I'm running a hog, I want to be running HogNet and sACN. Can I is it really a manageable switch?
Well, this is an unmanaged switch, if that's the question.
Yeah. Okay. Good note. Thank you.
Yeah, I know that there are people that like using managed and unmanaged. In building the box, the majority of the users, because the box is going to be used by so many different peoples of different level, we felt like we needed that. Obviously, there are times in which you need a managed switch for different purposes, but
if I need one, I'll get one.
There you go.
Good. So when it's managing its sACN, because it's an unmanaged switch, now I'm kind of concerned about a storm. So when sACN is idle, no changes, it's just each universe is running at 1 hertz. But when I do make a giant, the spaceship is landing, up to 40 hertz per universe, how are we addressing the storm issue?
I don't know if I know exactly the answer to that, but I can tell you this. We asked our programmer friend here, Matt Ardeen, who teaches our classes, to try and blow this up.
Yeah.
He had a hog, he had an ion, and I'm having a blank, our third most popular.
MA?
Thank you, MA. And we asked him to spend the weekend trying to blow it up, and he was unsuccessful. That doesn't mean you won't be successful, but we did attempt to blow it up.
Got it. Okay.
And at the speeds you did mention.
Okay, good. Can I set priorities? So if I have multiple consoles, like, classic festival, I've got headliner and the venue, can I set priorities in there at all?
I don't have an answer. We don't have an answer to that. I think the answer is no. No, yeah, so I'm getting a no. There's not a way to do that at the moment.
Okay. Thank you. I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, I want to just pause and say I appreciate you guys allowing me to moderate. Obviously, I've not as a programmer or as an engineer, but as someone running the company, these are really good comments, and we're going to continue to build on this platform. And we know we wanted to do as many things as possible, and there's going to be some things we can't do, but our goal, and whether we succeed or not, we'll see by how people use it, was to try and do as broad a spectrum of things as possible. Because a lot of the computing power and money goes into the dimmer function, which a lot of times you have no need for because you're just using it for other purposes. If that's Ian, do you have a question? Or any other questions from anybody?
I was going to say, will this video be available somewhere for other people to look at? Yes, I've seen.
Yes, Simon, it's being recorded, and I will post that in the follow-up email to invite you all back next week. So either later today or tomorrow, I'll release that to everybody in the invite.
Great. Couple last minute points. Because we mentioned the color through the node in the Centena. That is done through the CRMX Toolbox app, because the Centena 2 has Bluetooth capability. That is part of TMO 2. So through Bluetooth, you can change the color output in Centena 2. Any last questions? And by the way, I don't care how long we stay on, and those who need to jump off, that's fine. But any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, I was wondering, with the TMO 2 chip, can you plug in your networked PC and use the Supernova Lumen Radio app to talk to your other devices, like your RC4 chips and stuff like that?
No, I don't think so. That might be a question I have to follow up with Lumen Radio. But I don't think this is your question because I think I'm dumbing it down because your question is at a higher level. But obviously, everything Lumen Radio can talk to each other. TIMO 1 and TIMO 2 are completely compatible.
And Craig, Nellie has asked about RDM compatibility.
Yeah, RDM, we do not have, the hardware for RDM exists in the box. An RDM update will be available in about 6 to 9 months. It's a pretty large effort, and we do not currently have that in the box.
Thanks, Craig.
So we do pass through RDM.
So, but we do pass through, meaning we don't add to the RDM conversation from our box, but it will pass through one way?
Yes, that is true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, if that's all, Craig, if you think so, I think we're ready to wrap this up, but this has been excellent.
Yeah, again, thank you, everybody. I can't see you, but you can see me. I appreciate your time. It really means a lot to me. And I hope that we can continue down the road of making the changes that you like. I will last minute, and it's a shameless plug, but about mid-September, we'll have the data-only version of this without the outlets, and that will have 2 outlets of PoE. You all have a great day, and I look forward to following up with you again later.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Lots
everyone.
of good stuff coming out of Rat Pack's quarantine.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Hey, Craig and Blaze, real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, the how you had the bump override on there, how it'll auto timeout after 20 minutes and you can remote override it. Is that something that you guys are going to pass down onto your lunchbox dimmers, like the 1.2s and 2.4s?
Yes, everything is going to get a 20-minute timeout for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's
Much
your
help.
in the butt.
Cool. Yeah, happy to hear that.
Hey, by the way, whoever's left on here, Ray, you want to take a minute to talk about the demo where you're going to do in a month?
I stopped the video, but.
Ray, can you unmute? Hey, Blaze, can you unmute Ray?
Yeah, I just tried. He's going to have to do it locally. I don't know what's going on, but I'll start off and he can jump in and interrupt me anytime. Yeah, on August 20th, this same time on the Thursday at 1 o'clock, it'll be one of our sessions, but we're planning to, Ray Ziegler at RZI Lighting down in New Orleans is going to have a rig set up. And our plan is to have, you know, a lot of his devices and a lot of our devices in that rig that different guests can log on and control remotely. So we plan to let people play with a lot of the gear, and RZI is hosting that there in New Orleans. And I'm looking, and I don't think Ray is still with us.
Okay, but you got that out, and we'll, and those of you who are on email here, maybe we can push that out to them after this, place.
Absolutely. Well, over the next few weeks, we'll be pushing that a lot. So
I want to shout out to Adam Harrison for joining us while you're at work.
yeah, really.
Shipping.
And Sasha from Montreal, once again, thank you for representing for Mel's.
And if you're still on, nice to see you, Lan. Nice to see all of you. I really appreciate the time, and look forward to doing more of this.
And nice to see you doing well there, Craig. Glad you're.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been about 3.5 weeks since my back surgery. Double fusion. Thank you, Forat, and recovering quite well.
Yeah, I think what you just said is there's actually a hope for all the rig gaffers out there. They may be able to be rebuilt.
Every other
yeah
back, right?
All right, guys, I'm gonna shut us down. Thank you so much.